Welcome to And Yet, Augustana's online adult education series. This time we are going to be talking about whole brain living, and this is session 1 from that. By the way, the photograph was just taken a couple of days ago from the end of our driveway. We had the most beautiful sunset. What we are going to be looking at is Jill Bolte Taylor's new book on whole brain living, The Anatomy of Choice and the 4 Characters that Drive Your Life. What you may remember from last year was that we actually watched a TED Talk from Jill Bolte Taylor. She was the brain surgeon, or the brain researcher, excuse me, that had a stroke. So she had a slow bleed on the left half of her brain, and she was able to recall and document what happened with that. And this is the book that she wanted to talk more about because she did not believe that her TED Talk actually got her point across. So if you take a look at this is my Molly. Molly was totally ignorant of the snow on her nose. Ignorance basically means you are ignoring what you know or may know. Now, Molly could feel that, but she was more interested in the treat that Todd was holding than to pay attention to something that she may have known. What we're going to find out as we go through this book is that there are things about our brain that we really have been very ignorant about. And it's things that we maybe kind of know if we paid attention, but we have kind of bypassed that or bypassed them. Jill Bolte Taylor, when she ended up having her stroke, the stroke pretty much wiped out the left half of her brain. And that's the part of our brains that we use to function in our lives and in our daily lives. That's the part of our brain where we have all of our emotions and feelings. But she did not die. She was left with the right half of her brain, which also has an intellectual intelligence side and also an emotional side. And what she found was that when she was functioning there, she had a sense of being connected to absolutely everything and a peacefulness that was unbelievable. And she wanted to make sure that people knew that you can access this part of your brain. And it is the right part of your brain where you connect with God. So, as she says, I wanted us as human beings to recognize that we are connected as part of a whole. And I wished for us to treat one another with a higher degree of respect and kindness. Instead, our civility toward one another has clearly decayed over the past decade and more. Her stroke happened a decade ago, and as you can tell, things really have decayed in how we treat one another. She makes sure that, we realize that we have much more power over what's going on inside of our heads than what we've ever been taught. Most of us have been taught that things are the way they are, we are the way we are, and that the brain doesn't change. Well, this is no longer true. We can change and create ourselves to be totally different at any time that we want to do that, and at any age. You never get too old to learn new tricks. So this book is your roadmap to peace, which is really just a thought away. We have the power to turn our emotional circuitry on and off by choice. So it means that we don't have to go any more than 90 seconds of being angry or hurt or disappointed or depressed, because our emotions are actually chemistry, and it flows into us and then it flows out of us. So if you are stuck with being angry, it's because you are choosing to do that. Now, that doesn't feel real good. But if we're choosing to do that, we can unchoose to do that, and we can learn how it is that we go ahead and do that. And that's what we're going to be talking about in this series. I love this picture. This is taken out of the front of our house through a window. And I was so excited because I could see that there was a bunny out there, but this is my favorite bunny, my little earless bunny. I have no idea if those ears froze off or if they were bit. But biologically, like the deer, we are feeling creatures who think. So as humans, we often think of ourselves as people that think. It's our brain. That's who we really are. The truth is we really are feeling creatures who think. And that makes a difference in how we live our lives if you understand that and you believe that. We are programmed to feel our emotions. And any attempt to bypass or ignore what we are feeling may have the power to derail our mental health and also our physical health. We have gotten very, very good to not be in touch with or feel our feelings. Supposedly, we have been trained in such a way to think that this is maturity, when truthfully, maturity truly is being able to recognize, nurture our feelings, and then act appropriately. And as you know, with road rage and everything else, there are a lot of people that are not used to dealing with their feelings and figuring out how to behave with them. So we all have 4 predictable and easy to identify characters in our brain based on the anatomy of our brain. Now, in her book, she has the research about all of these studies and what has been done to prove what she's talking about. I'm not going to go through all of that. This is a very good and interesting book, and it's easy to understand. Actually, it is an excellent Audible book. Because she is the author. Jill is the one that reads the book, and it's good, and she is funny. So anyway, we have 4 characters. Now, our left brain is what offers us our individuality. And our right brain connects us with not only the consciousness of others, the collected whole of humanity, but it's our right brain, you guys, that connects us to God. So when we talk about how faith meets life, we're talking about trying to connect ourselves through the right brain to God. Now, you can have an understanding of God, you can study the Bible, you can quote Bible verses, you can do all of that, but that is different than connecting and feeling and have a sense of being with God. And if you think back to what we just talked about in the fall about the stages of faith development, it is this 4th stage of faith development that connects with God. All right, and we'll talk a little bit more about that. But this is what we're trying to get at. This is what we're trying to do. So, as long as we live in a society that is always so left brain, it will always reward us for what we do, not for who we are. And when you are only looked at as somebody as what you do, what you accomplish, how much more you accomplish, we will feel undervalued and unfulfilled. So what happens too is for many of us, because our character 2, which is all emotions, isn't necessarily comfortable. We don't know how to deal with it. And it also isn't probably the most mature part of ourselves. We have a tendency to try to get rid of it or fix it. We want to fix that unruly, unattractive, vulnerable parts of ourselves. But when you acknowledge it, you embrace it, you listen to it, and you learn to nurture all of those feelings and all of our brain characters, then we will mature, grow, and evolve into that person our dog already thinks we are. I loved that quote. That's probably the best one I'd seen in the book. All right. I have a Word document that lists all of this. If that is something that you would be interested in so that you could just kind of have it as a cheat sheet, go ahead and email me and I will send it to you. But this gives you a general outline of what our brain characters are and what they're kind of responsible for. And we will be going through them individually and as we go on here. But this gives you kind of a big picture. Now, left thinking brain thinks verbally. It's everything in verbal and talking. Right thinking brain, number 4, is nonverbal. Left thinks in language. The right thinks in pictures, which is interesting because I've read some books that as you try to talk or relate, to your animals, you think about it in pictures because they are much more of a right thinking brain. Left thinking thinks linearly and right thinking is experientially. Now, you should be able to start to see already that these are dualistic beliefs. All right, they are totally opposite of one another. Okay, so it's either this or that. Now, if we go back to how we talked about not trying to see things dualistically as just right or wrong or whatever, to do that, you have to blend both your left thinking brain and your right thinking brain to be able to get there. So your left thinking brain deals with the past or the future, and the right thinking brain only deals with the present moment, what's going on right now, this minute. Your left thinking is analytical, whereas the right is more kinesthetic, it's more body, it's that felt sense, that gut feeling, the intuition, the sense that your conscience. Some people may even call that, the Holy Spirit or God within you, and we will talk more about that when we get to our character 4. So left thinking focuses on details, and right thinking sees the big picture. It sees a bigger, broader picture. Left thinking, you're looking at differences because you're seeing things as different. You're seeing yourself as an individual. And right thinking sees similarities. What is it that's similar? Left thinking, then, of course, can be very judgmental. Right thinking is much more compassionate. Left thinking is very punctual. Right thinking, you get kind of lost in the flow of time. Very much individualistic as a left thinking brain. Right thinking brain is much more collective. Left thinking is more concise or precise. Right thinking is more flexible and resilient. In left thinking, there's fixed possibilities. You're not going to be seeing lots of ideas or options. And right thinking is much more open to possibilities. Left thinking, your focus is always on you. It's on you as the individual. Right thinking is focusing on we or us. How is it that we connect and we deal with things? Left thinking, you're always busy because work is what you need to be doing. Right thinking, you are much more available. Left thinking is more conscious. Right thinking is more unconscious. As you start to see, you can start to see how thinking patterns also tie in with faith formation. All right? The beginning stages of faith formation are all caught up in our left thinking brain. And our left thinking brain is very much about this world, about how do we get ahead, how are we successful, how do we climb the ladder, what do we do with that. Left thinking is very much into structure or in order, and right thinking is much more into the fluid and flow. Okay, our left emotional brain, and we also have a right emotional brain. Now, these emotional brains get information that comes in as either fighting, flighting, or freezing. All right, that kind of information that comes in from the animal brain, and our left emotional character will see and process that differently than our right emotional character. So the left emotional character is much more constricted. The right is expansive, sees bigger things. Left is very rigid. Right is open. Left emotional is very cautious, and there's a lot of risk taking with the right emotional. Left is very fear-based. Again, we're living in a very fear-based society. Right is fearless. Left can be more stern. Right can be more friendly. Left loves conditionally. I will love you if you do what I expect you to do. I love you if you give me something that I need. Right emotional is I love you unconditionally. Even if I don't understand you, even if I don't agree with you, doesn't make a difference. It's unconditional love. The left emotional doubts, the right emotional trusts. The left emotional can be very much of a bully. The right the right supports. Okay, so it is very supportive. The left can become extremely righteous. Think of a stage 1 Christian. The right emotional is very grateful. The left emotional will manipulate. The right kind of goes with the flow. The left emotional really can tie in with the left thinking brain, and then there can be a lot of things that happen with manipulation to try to get things to go their way. The left emotional is very much into tried and true. This is what works. We're not going to change. This has worked for us before. We don't want to ruin it, so we're not going to try anything new. The right emotional is much more creative and innovative. And the left emotional is much more independent, and the right emotional is collective. So you're seeing yourself on the left side as very much an individual, and on the right side you're seeing things as, what's going to work best for the system, for the group of people. Left emotional can be very selfish. Right is much into sharing. Left emotional is also very critical. And right emotional can be very kind. Left emotional looks at superiority or inferiority, and the right looks at equality. So you're looking at very different things. Left emotional, everything is right or wrong. The right emotional is contextual. In this instance, what is the most beneficial thing for everybody is what a stage 3 would be looking at. We all have all of those characters. There may be certain characters that are more dominant at certain times, but we have all of those characters, and we need all of those characters because they are helpful in many, many ways. Even the things that we may not think are so great, it is important to realize that, our character 2 is a very important character for what we need to be doing with to keep us safe and to keep us healthy. All right, she talks about using these characters in a brain huddle. So if you are in some kind of a situation, and again, we'll talk more about this, but if you are in a situation and you immediately understand that you are feeling some certain things, you can go ahead and choose how you want to react or deal with it instead of just doing a knee-jerk reaction. Road rage is a knee-jerk reaction. Sarcastic humor, chewing somebody out, being a bully, that's, knee-jerk reaction. That isn't just how you are. You can choose to react better. So the brain huddle, the very first thing is you push the pause button, which is always tied into your breath. And so it interrupts what's going to happen emotionally, and then you focus right on that present moment. Okay, what is happening now? Focus on my breath. The second step is to recognize what of the 4 character circuitry are you running. Are you reacting out of your character 2? And then the third stage is to appreciate what it is that's coming on and what's happening, and appreciate that you've got all 4 characters that you can work with to deal with this situation. Then you want to inquire. You want to invite all 4 characters into a huddle so that they can collectively and consciously strategize your next move. And then finally, you want to navigate your new reality with all 4 characters bringing their best game. So this is what we're going to do. We're going to take a good close look of our character 1. I'm going to give you some opportunity and questions to try to figure out exactly who your character 1 is. We're going to do that for each of the 4 characters, and then we're going to take a look at the brain huddle and how do you use those together. Today, in this video, we're going to take a look at left brain character 1 and left brain character 2. So, character 1, your left brain thinking. It is an interesting character that we can't be without. You would not be able to watch this video if your left brain character 1 isn't working. So it is the primary tool that we use to interact with the external world. It perceives differences and separation. But our overall perception of the world is actually blended between our left and our right brain. So the right brain sees that bigger picture, or you would say it would see the forest. And the left brain sees the details, or you'd see it sees the trees. Now, you can start to see how if all you ever do is focus on your left brain, you're going to be missing out a lot on the bigger picture and a number of other things if you are not also using your right brain. So, you can choose which character you want to become dominant. For example, I knew when I was a young kid I was much more of a right brain character 3, but as I started to grow and felt it was important to be successful, to be a perfectionist, to do well in the world, the whole works, I kind of shut down that right brain of mine and focused solely on the left brain so that I could maneuver with that. As I grew into my 20s, I started to see that things were different for me, and I actually liked some of the things that I was seeing and feeling with my character 3. So, and character 4. And so I have shifted. So if like I did the Myers-Briggs now, it would be very different than from when I did it when I was in college, because I've made a conscious shift to connect more with my right brain. So your left brain success, how you see success, it's work, 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 achievement, very much external reality. Your right brain meaning flows through an internal standard of loving, being loved, and being of service to others. All right, very, very different on how you see that. Now you can do both. I mean, again, this isn't dualistic thinking. You can do both, but where is your focus? Where is your focus? So, your character 1 sees as if life is something to be conquered. It kind of loves routines, loves crossing things off a list, very productive, very much a perfectionist, and it can also be highly critical of others and also of yourself. A character 1 values material goods, takes good care of those things because you know you've worked hard to do it. Very much a rational thinker, can be very competitive, not very patient. It is, however, our character 1 that runs our stress circuit. So if you have a tendency to worry or get depressed or get anxious, all of those things tie in with our left brain, not our right brain. So that's where it starts to get a little interesting and interconnected. Because you take a look at these things, there's a lot of positive things about this. A lot of positive things about our character 1s. So there are different types of character 1s, however. A hard character 1 combines with the emotional upset of your character 2, which is usually based in fear. And a hard character 1 is going to see emotions as vulnerable and a weakness. Many, many people in our society, and many of us, are operating this way. That acknowledging, showing your emotions, and dealing with any of that, all right, is not something that you want to do. It's seen as a weakness. It is seen as lesser. So a hard character one can have a tendency to be pretty harsh. They're much more authoritarian instead of authoritative. They're much more of a dictator. And they're kind of full of themselves. Very much, egocentric. Hard character ones do not like change unless it is to their own advantage. If it's something that's going to be to their own advantage, then they will really like that. You can, however, have a soft character one, which is a one that has the absence of that character two emotion in it. So a soft character one can be very kind, loving, readily available, and a good team builder. All right, so a soft one can take all of those wonderful characteristics of left brain thinking that you need, okay, to work in your life. And if they don't get caught up in the emotional part of their left thinking brain, they will show signs of being more right brained, much more kind and thoughtful. Here's a snapshot. Our character ones organize absolutely everything, and they categorize very well. They're naturally mechanical, and I don't know if I really like that word, but you know what? It's like you give me a set of instructions and I'm going to be able to figure this out. All right. This is the character that does really good with give me a recipe and I'll be able to make it and do that. It's that kind of linear steps that we like. It plans really well. It respects authority. It can be very critical, especially if it's a hard one, of knowing what's right, what's wrong, what's good, what's bad. All right. And it can be very critical, not only of themselves, but of others. They're very detail based, counts absolutely everything, even to the point that I did this. I had them over for dinner 3-4 times and they haven't had us over or me over. We're talking about counting absolutely everything. Character ones are also very protective. It's always an us and them thing. All right. Here's the people that are right. Here's the people that are wrong. Here's the people that are like me. Here's the people that are not like me. You can put this into religious or even political terms, but that would be strong character ones. Most of our world is operating only with the left side of their brain. And when you take a look at faith development, you guys, as we talked about that, that's why most of our churches are only a stage 1 or stage 2, because they're only using the left thinking portion of their brain. A character one does never express his emotions, and they work continually because play is generally a waste of time. So now these would be solid, pure examples of a character one. You're going to be a mixture of all of them. But you should start to see how if character one is your kind of strong character that you have been putting a lot of time and effort into. So here's how you need to get to know your character one. And you're going to have to be a little playful here. And if that doesn't come easy for you, I totally understand, because when I first read this book this summer, I thought, oh, that's interesting, but it seems a little weird. I am so glad I pursued it again and actually tried to work with it, because it has been extremely helpful for me. So hang in there. Enjoy the playful side of this and see where it takes you. You're not going to be disappointed. So can you recognize your character one? When does your character one show up? Is your character one that shows up right away in the morning that says, okay, this is what we have to do, and this is how we're going to get it done? Does your character one show up when you have other projects or other different things that you're doing? And what are some of those positive traits? I mean, I like my organizational skills. I think that's a really good thing. My character one keeps me on time for things, helps me drive, helps me do athletic events. You really need your character one. So what are those positive traits in you? And then what are her negative traits or his negative traits? What are those negative traits that are in you? Okay, my character one can be very critical of me because I'm very much a perfectionist. All right, I can also then be critical of other people because I'm pounding hard on myself, and what I do for myself, I expect other people to do as well. So take a look and see what it is and how your character one shows up in your life. And then what is it that your character one feels like inside your body? All right. And when and how is that? My character one can drive me nuts when I feel like I'm not getting enough work done for work or work done for home. And yet my character one can feel really, really good when I organize that stupid closet where everything falls out when you open it. Now, admit it, everybody has a closet like that or a drawer like that. So my character one can feel really good about that. And I can feel that in my body as a lack of attention. And then how much time do you let this character run your life and under what circumstance? Is there times that you can go ahead and not have your character one run absolutely everything? All right. Now, here's the part that's going to take some creativity and play, and it only will work if you go along and have some fun with this. Do you have a name for your character one? What would your character one's name be, and can you picture him or her? My character one's name is Agnes. She is the picture perfect Mary Poppins type of me. She, however, does not have an ounce of fat. Her curls are always in the right place, and I know her legs have got to be at least 3 inches longer than mine are. But she knows what's right and she knows what's wrong, and she is not afraid of telling me what I should do and how it is that I should get it done and when it is that I do not do that perfectly up to her standards. So that is my Agnes. And I can have Agnes show up for absolutely everything I do. So when I get into the pool and swim and I'm going to try to just relax and have some good exercise, Agnes is there as soon as I get in saying, okay, now you got to straighten that stroke out and you got to push harder. You're actually not pushing hard enough. You're not making this time correctly. And then if she isn't doing that, then she's making lists of everything that I need to get done during the day. This is what you need to do, and don't forget to do this. Well, I can go ahead and say, okay, Agnes, you can go ahead and let me know what needs to be done. But then when that's done, please shut up because I want to enjoy my swim. That's what my purpose is here. Thank you very much for your information, but it is time now for you to be quiet. Yes, does this sound weird? When you first start it, you better believe it. You will, I can guarantee it, get to know and understand this in a way that it will be helpful for you. So as you look at your life, who are some of the character ones in your life who have either influenced you positively or negatively? All right. You know, it could be parents, it could be teachers, people that taught you some of the things that you need to be able to survive this world. Or who were the hard character ones? All right, that maybe were bullies, that were too judgmental, that were always so hard on you that you could never meet up their standards. And who is it that wants to hang out with your character one? And what are those relationships like? If you are working, I'm sure your boss loves your character one. Because your character one, all your character one wants to do is work. Work, 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 be perfect, please. And do it absolutely right. And then what kind of a parent, partner, or friend is your character one? All right, if you have children or whatever, how is it that you're raising your children and where is that character one coming out? And is it coming out as a soft one or is it coming out as a hard one? And again, if it's coming out hard and harsh and kind of brutal and not very kind, that means you're tied in to what's going on with your character too. Okay, and that's what we're going to talk about next. Character 2 is our left brain emotional. Sometimes that's called your shadow. My character 2 is named Pal, definitely. She's my donkey. And if you've seen any of the videos, you know how she can whine and complain. And she is just that kind of Eeyore. And she feels all the feelings there are. And that's what is going on with your character too. So we are feeling creatures that think. And so what happens is that the information that we get in goes to our left brain feeling and our right brain feeling. And if it goes to our left brain feeling, as it does there, then that moves to your left brain thinking. And right brain is the opposite. So they are processing the same information in a totally different way. So there's benefits of it because you're seeing something in the present moment, but you're also comparing it to the past from the left brain. What can happen then is you can get some internal conflicts. So say, for example, when you were a young kid, there was a big German Shepherd that scared the bejesus out of you and came up and was right in your face and the whole works. So you have this fear of big dogs. Now you're adult and you see this big German Shepherd. Your information that you get by seeing this dog on your left brain's going to come up and say, oh no, danger, danger, danger. This is a big dog. This is the dog. This is scary. This is scary stuff. I need to get protected. I maybe need to run away. I need to do this. Well, it could happen that big dog is sitting there wagging its tail and it's wiggling all over and it's got this big smile on its face and just wants you to pet it. That's what your right brain would pick up. That's what your right brain emotional would pick up. This dog is not seeming threatening. So you have an internal conflict that you can choose to react to or to deal with. All right? You don't have to do the knee-jerk reaction of racing away. All right? You can take a look at that and go, oh, okay, yeah, my gut is telling me, my right brain is telling me that this is safe and this is okay. So that's a pretty simple example of that. But your character 2 always receives the information and puts it with past experiences. And you have to remember your left brain sees everything as isolated, individual, and alone. So it's not a collective kind of thing. Character 3 again doesn't compare anything to our past. It sees everything in present moment. And the other thing is our character 3, when we talk about that next time, our character 3s have the direct relationship with divine, with God, that kind of universal consciousness. All right. Sometimes what we think we should do when we want to control our character 2s is we pretend that that's not what we're feeling. Okay, it's not appropriate to be scared here, so I'm going to go ahead and pretend I'm not scared. Or, you know what, it's stupid to be hurt by what that person said, and I'm just going to ignore it. Come on, it's no big deal. Well, what ends up happening is if you do not acknowledge the feelings and deal with and nurture those feelings, and it may not take very long in doing that, you will end up having mental health and physical issues. That is just an absolute given. You stuff your feelings and you're going to have problems. As a matter of fact, later on in the book, and we're not going to get into this, but she has a whole chapter on how these 4 characters play out in personal relationships or addictions even. She has a chapter on that. She goes as far to say that if you are addicted, and we are all addicted to something, but she was talking about alcohol. If you cannot get in touch with and deal with your feelings and nurture your feelings, there is no way that you will be able to not be addicted in the very true sense of the word. You may go for a period of time and be able to handle that, but something is going to happen emotionally to you that's going to bring you right back into that addiction. So she sees this, and a lot of other researchers see dealing with our feelings and our emotions is very important. So character 2 holds the key to our physical being. So you need to go ahead and take a look at how do you get to know and learn how to nurture that character 2. And we will be taking a look at that when we take a look at the brain huddle. But a lot of times it's just a matter of acknowledging it. Oh, what you said, what somebody said, yeah, okay, what I'm really feeling is hurt. You may feel like anger. Anger masks a lot of things, but the truth is you may feel hurt by that. And instead of judging that hurt, you go ahead and just acknowledge that, oh yeah, that hurt, and and nurture that a little bit. Again, we will see more with that. Okay, our character 2 faces our deepest fears. It's very fear-based, and its alarm happens by whining, wailing, cheating, scheming, manipulating, getting jealous or angry, feeling guilt or shame. It can be both ways. It is a temper tantrum. It's like a 2-year-old temper tantrum, and we all have them because our emotional brains never grow up. They never grow up. They never mature. So, somebody will say, well, I had temper tantrums when I was 2 and I'm not having them now, so I matured out of that. No, what you did was learned by your thinking brain how to, control that. And oftentimes if it's controlled by stuffing it, it's going to be causing a problem for your mental and your physical health. Okay, that's that's Pally and her fly masks. Again, my character 2. So we can learn to manage our emotional reactivity. Remember, when emotions come in, they are physiologically in our body only 90 seconds. So when that person cuts you off as you're driving and you immediately feel anger, it will only be there for 90 seconds unless you are going to focus on it and ruminate with it and get your character 2 involved. And then you can either submit to road rage or end up having a terrible day that gets worse. We all know what that's like. Okay, this is interesting. Our left brain is our source of happiness, but not joy. So, our character 2 and our character 1 can be happy, but that happiness is dependent only on external circumstances, things outside of us. It may be people, places, thoughts, or events. Nothing wrong with this, but this is the vacation. This is the time that you go and buy something or you look forward to something. This is when you look forward to Christmas and getting together with family. That's a happiness. A joy is very much right-brained, and that comes from within. And that comes with your character 3 that we'll talk about next time. But that's that sense of peace, contentment, that intuitive gut feeling that everything is okay, it is hopeful. So happiness and joy are not the same things. And happiness occurs on your left brain, and it is not something that continues. It has a beginning and an end. So let's take a look at a snapshot of our character 2s. What you realize is character 2s never take responsibility for anything. They don't mature, so they're not responsible. So the core behaviors, even if you're seeing a behavior like anger or frustration or sarcastic humor, the core behaviors really are pain and fear. That's what is underneath some of all of those behaviors. But in working with this, there's no sense of responsibility. And so I will say this now, and I'll say it again. If you have 2 people that are functioning out of their character 2s and they are arguing, There is no way anything's going to be done other than a bigger argument. So take a look at politics. Take a look at anything that people argue about. If you are sitting and dealing with your emotions and your character two, you are not going to be able to resolve the issue. Okay, with character two, you can have a lot of anger and name calling. There can be a lot of bitterness, holding grudges or resentments. Impatient is another thing that comes out of character twos. Argumentative. People that are not happy. And you may know and can come up. Coffee and Conversation Women came up very easily with people that are stuck and seeing everything from their character twos. And with all of the whining, complaining, and pessimism and the whole works, they can often be very argumentative because they're not happy and they don't want other people to be happy either. So that's one thing to look for. Another thing is there can be sarcastic humor, or the person could be a bully, spiteful, mean, or cruel, or they may belittle, or they may even threaten. So your character too can oftentimes be very deceiving. It can plot revenge, it may slander, it may lie. I mean, these are not pretty things, but it's all a part of us. It can be very emotionally manipulative. A lot of manipulation goes on in our world to get people to do things the way we wanted or even see things the way we see it. The other side of character twos is that they can also feel very guilty about what's happening. They can internalize that shame and embarrassment. Character twos, and then your hard character ones, love conditionally. They will only love someone if that person is doing what they think they should be doing, or if it is feeding the character two's needs. They can be very critical and intolerant of many, many differences. All right. Character twos, of course, are very strong with judgment. They judge not only others, but they judge themselves. And here's that word again. Everything is dualistic. Everything is either or. This is right, this is wrong, either or. Again, we're looking at the first stages of faith and actually moral social development is very much tied in to the either or. They can be anxious, worried, and can't relax. There can be a lot of whining, dread and doom and complaining, feeling victimized, envious. You always know the character twos in your life because they're the ones that actually fully enjoy if you need to have a crying and moaning party. Character twos are also very egocentric. Of course, it deals with individuality on our left brain side. There's very much a sense of scarcity. There's not enough. There's not enough to go around, so I got to get my fair share. Whether you're talking about love, whether you're talking about stuff or food or anything, it's that sense of scarcity. And as you know, our society right now especially is totally over the top of this sense of scarcity. Character twos can be very selfish, self-absorbed, self-righteous, superior, self-promoting, and then they also can do a lot of blaming. They may feel very underappreciated, undervalued, unwanted, and they deflect blame. They may blame others, but they don't take responsibility again for anything. So your character twos would be seen as your shadow side. Again, we all have a character two. It may manifest itself in different ways, but you have to be able to be honest enough with yourself to take a look at that and to see where your character two comes. Now, if you spend your whole life kind of sitting in a character two, you may have friends, but they would be character twos. So you get together and then you can complain and moan and all of that. But most people want to avoid the character twos. All right. Most people want to avoid that. And I'm talking about people that are there and they're stuck there. And of course, we're not talking about grief here. Grief is a whole different ball game. So we're not talking about at times when you've lost something and you really, need to deal with that. We're not talking about spiritual bypassing where we pretend these things aren't true. What you're talking about is if you are always choosing to live in your character 2 brain mode, people aren't going to want to be around with you. All right, so how do we get to know our character 2? Do you recognize your character 2? Women in Coffee and Conversation had no problem. It seems like character 2, it's very easy to recognize character 2 in ourselves and others. But is your character 2 loud, mean? Can it be biting? Again, there's a lot of things that mask as itself as anger. So you could feel like you're a very angry person, but it may be that you're more fearful or hurt. Or is your character 2 stronger with the kind of self-loathing, silent, pitiful, moaning and groaning? A lot of times your character 2, it may be due to a hurt from the past. It may be due to unresolved grief, not the normal grieving process, but grief that was never dealt with. And that can get stuck as a character 2. Your character 2 is the vulnerable part of you. It's really hard to say to somebody, what you said to me really hurt me. All right? That's showing that you're vulnerable and being able to be hurt. And you know darn well the other person may or not say something that's going to be comfortable. They may turn to you and say, why are you so sensitive? That's a hard number 1, character 1 comment. Character 2s can crop up. I know mine crops up when I am tired, or if I've overworked and I haven't spent enough time outside in nature or with my animals, or if I'm hungry, character 2 can crop up. I can always know that my character 2 is going to show up when I have been overextended and when I am exhausted and I'm heading towards burnout. What does it feel like inside your body? Where do you feel that? I feel it a lot in my gut. I can feel this negative kind of feeling. Sometimes my heart actually even feels like it hurts. And then I can actually be a little bit more anxious or just less hopeful is another thing. And that kind of feels like an overall heavy blanket on me. So, with your character 2, how much of the time do you let this character run your life? And under what circumstance? Are there certain people that you run your character 2 with? Are there situations where you are, or is this a pretty normal pattern for you? Do you worry a lot, complain often, feel that the world is a treacherous place? Don't complain because it's only going to get worse. That's a character 2 comment. And then what would you call your character 2? And could you picture him or her? What does the character 2 look like? And of course, mine is named Pal. Who are some of the character 2s in other people over the course of your life who have influenced you, either positive or negative? Most people do not have a problem coming up with a relative that has functioned as a character 2 most of their life. And everybody remembers how the rest of the family has reacted to that person. It can be a very common thing, and what happens is people that function only, or strongly in their character 2, again, won't take responsibility for it. If you ever try to confront them, they will just say, well, this is how I am. What do you mean? This is how I am. So there's no sense, of responsibility that you actually are really making a choice to be this way. All right. And who is it that wants to hang out with your character 2, and what's that relationship like? Here again, any fight between 2 character 2s will never be resolved. If you are both operating out of your character 2s, it's not going to be resolved. And we can see this in society, whether it's political or racial issues. If we are all sitting in our character twos ever trying to figure this out, it's not going to get figured out. Somebody has to be willing to move into one of your right brain characters to be able to make this work. And this is what we are hearing and what I'm reading in a lot of the issues with, racial and political issues. The book that we just read on Fierce Love that Reverend Jackie Lewis wrote, she is very much into trying to have racial justice and do all of that, but she is approaching it from a right brain approach. All right, not that you don't get angry or that it isn't, but she's approaching it from a right brain approach and choosing to do that. And then what kind of a parent, partner, or friend is your character two? Where you really have to watch out is in that loving unconditionally. If you, and this is, we'll never get it right as humans. We can only get close. But if you are living, loving somebody conditionally, what's going to happen with them is you will either be disconnected from them or the other person's going to become emotionally drained. Because they're always going to be trying to live up to your standards. And your love is taken away if you don't do what they want. So again, take a look at how this is affecting you and take a look at how you are affecting other people with this. Okay, how do we handle character two? Here's just a little bit of an idea with that so that you get a sense of where we're moving here. So your character two is all upset. Your character two has been hurt. All right, and or is scared. Okay, so what happens if we go back to the story about the big dog, the big mean dog? Your character two is all of a sudden going, big mean dog, safety, safety, safety. Character one, or thinking character one, jumps in and looks at this and says, okay, are we physically safe, and how do we do this? So you maybe step back. You step back so there's more distance between you and that dog, or you know what, you may turn around and walk around the other way. What your character four, which we haven't met yet, does is it listens to your character two and wraps that character two up in love. Because our character twos are just scared little boys and girls who are in pain. Think of a little child, a 2-year-old, that doesn't understand and is just feeling that pain and is upset. That's what our character twos are. And our character four is never going to judge. It will always be there just to comfort. And then once character two feels like it's been listened to and is supported, then our character three, which we will learn about next time, can come in and get that person out of their pain and get them out of their body. So you can do this yourself in a brain huddle, and you can also do this with other people. So say, for example, in my family, my father can sometimes be really stuck in a character too, and right now as he's getting older, there's health issues and stuff, and he has growth on his head that he has to have taken out. It's not cancer yet, but they want to take it out. And so my daughter Bree, who's very much a character 3, was over delivering groceries for them, and Grandpa was complaining about this and how he would have a big hole and that they'd be digging down to his skull. And my daughter Bree looks at him and said, "So, Grandpa, if they go through that skull, do you think they're going to find the marbles?" And it took him a second, but then all of a sudden he started to laugh. All right? So you can use these characters with other people when you know the situation and can get people out of being stuck in their character too. Now, of course, Bree could do that because she has a relationship with Grandpa that is humorous based. You wouldn't want to be doing that to people that you didn't know. But that gives you an example of how you can not only use these characters in dealing with yourself, but also use these characters when you deal with other people. All right. That finishes up us for today. Session 2, we will be talking about right brain, character 3, character 4, and also how it is that you can use the brain huddle and some other things to put this and work this out in your life. And so that is coming February 23rd. So if you have any questions about any of this information, make sure that you email me or contact me when I'm at church, or you can even give me a call, and I'm more than willing to answer questions as you kind of move through this. So thank you very much, and I hope you have a great week.